Hey everyone, it's me, Rami Marks, your Tangled Yogi out here in Northern California. Welcome to Dancing into Spring. I just got done teaching this class for the San Rafael Public Library and I thought it would make a fun YouTube video for you all. So let's go ahead and talk about the things that we're going to need for class. I'm going to be working with the Micron Pn Pen, but you can use your favorite Tangle pen. I'll be working with the Mizu Love gel pen. If you want, you can also use the white Sakura jelly roll or the angelic from Signo. There is quite a bit of puddling in this piece, so if you want to grab your Identi-Pen from Sakura, this is a great puddle pen, or just grab whatever thicker Micron pen you have handy. I have a graphite pencil for when we build our string. And I also have my Genesis tile. These are from the Tangled Yogi shop. You can go there at tangledyogi.com and check out all of the tiles there. But it's super smooth paper and it's really great for working with color pencil. And you'll be supporting me in my endeavors of being a Zentangle teacher. Now, if you don't have a tile but you do want to do the class, go ahead and just grab your favorite sketchbook, and hopefully you've got some super smooth paper, and just draw a square that's 4.5 by 4.5 inches. All right, so let's get started with Dancing into Spring. So many of you know that I live up in the mountains here, and I thought I would share with you this beautiful spring moment while we get ourselves grounded before we start our meditation. So let's go ahead and take a comfortable seated position and let your feet touch down onto the floor. Allow your shoulders to melt away from your ears and allowing your spine to grow comfortably tall. If you're okay with it, allowing your hands to rest in your lap and letting your eyes close for a moment. Drawing your attention in towards your breath here as you inhale, feeling the expansiveness of the body, and as you exhale, feeling the release. Inhaling, noticing the belly and the rib cage and the upper chest expanding, and as you exhale, feeling it relax and let go. And one more time, deep breath in and slow exhale out. And before we get started with class, just checking in with yourself here and setting your intention for class. What has brought you to Zentangle today? Perhaps it's the opportunity to take care of yourself for a moment, or maybe learning something new. So just acknowledging that. And one more time, taking in a nice deep breath right here. Slowly exhaling it out. And in your own timing now, wiggling in your fingertips and toes. Gently blinking the eyes open. And let's get started with our practice. So we are going to start the regular old-fashioned Zentangle way by putting our dots in our corners to make a nice border. So you can see that I've got my graphite pencil in my hand and I'm putting my dots in my corner just like so. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to go ahead and very gently connect my dots to create my border. You can see I'm turning my tile as I go. So there I have my border ready to rock and roll. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start to create a string inside of the piece. So in Zentangle, one of the things that we like to do is we like to divide the space in order to put the tangles into, so it creates a really interesting composition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make some columns here. And you can see that the columns are basically the same size, and my lines aren't perfect, I'm just eyeballing it here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do an aura, which is just an echo line of that inside column. And so that is going to be my string for the class. Now, one of the things that I am going to do is I am going to work inside of these outside pieces and these inside pieces. So to create the string a little bit further, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to divide the space that's in the center. You can see that I'm still working with that graphite pencil, and I'm trying to make equal pieces here. It's pretty close. I can see I'm just slightly off, so I'm going to go ahead and maybe clean that up a little bit, and I might take an eraser and see how I did. Maybe that was a little bit better, and I think it is. So once I have that division, I'm going to do one more part of the string here. And that is I'm going to take this square that I have, and it's a little bit rectangulish, but still, I'm going to divide that square just like so. And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. And you can see that I'm just going to continue this line going upward. So we'll come back to our string again in a few minutes, but this is the string that I want to start with first. Alright, so I've picked up my Micron Pn Pen here. I like to work with this pen. Now you may want to use an 01 or an 05, whatever your favorite Tangle pen is, go ahead and grab it. So to start with our tangling here, we're going to do a variation on the Tangle Flight by Sharon Paz, and some of you might see this as a fragment. We've done fragments before in class here. So if it was to be a fragment, you can see here's my square. And a fragment is just basically part of a tangle. It would just be an orb-like shape here. Okay, so that's really what we're working with. And for those of you who have taken some of my classes recently, I've been having a lot of fun with this particular fragment. But the Tangle Flight has a really nice meta pattern with that fragment in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on this particular square with the 4 squares in it. So you can see that I'm just working right over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some fairly large leaves. You're going to see me flip that leaf around. I'll come back over here and do one more. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this right here. Now I'm going to come over to the next set and do the same. You can see I'm turning my tile as I work, making it easy on my hands. And so you can see that I have this really beautiful meta pattern that happened right in the center, which I really, really like. And we'll be using that pattern for part of the piece here. So go ahead and finish up yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and when we come back, we're going to start to add some detail. Okay, so we are going to get started with this diamond that's right in the center of the piece here. And one of my favorite tangles that I love is called Showgirl. And I know Showgirl as basically a teardrop shape. You can see that I'm doing that teardrop shape throughout. And then what you do is you just keep putting these little step downs on the side of it. And this is how I was taught Showgirl. Now, there are many different tangles that are very similar to this, but Showgirl was one of the first ones that I ever learned. And you can see that as I go all the way around, it really makes an interesting shape, right? So this is how I know Showgirl. Now, there are many different tangles that look very similar to this, but this is how I know it. So I'm just going to write it as Showgirl. And Showgirl is really just a compilation of flux, which is just a really great tangle, as you guys all know. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over, and we are going to put that tangle right inside of this diamond, so it'll create another tangulation or variation of the same thing. So let's get right in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start with that flux, and I'm going to let it come up and touch both sides of the top of the diamond, and I'm going to go down and have it do the same thing. So it's almost like you're making an 8. Some people might say it looks like bales or a bale's flower. And there are so many similar tangles in Zentangle, so it's hard to say. Now, once I have that main part in there, I'm going to go in and just do a small step down on each petal as I go around. And you'll notice that I'm going to run out of space fairly quickly. Just turning my tile as I do. And last one right here. Now look at how pretty that is in the center. I'm going to go ahead and puddle. Puddling just means I'm puddling ink into an area, or some people will call it filling in ink. You can see that I've got these little funny little triangle pieces in here. These are called interstices. So I'm just filling those in. You can see that I'm turning my tile on the side. Now remember, the lighter you go with your Micron pen, the more the ink flows. So you definitely want to go nice and light with that pen. You don't want to destroy your nib by pressing too hard. And we're all guilty of it. And I actually say these things because I catch myself doing it. So that's my tell right there. I just gave it away. So you can see, look at how pretty that is. Such a beautiful tangle. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to these little side pieces. So you can see there's half of a diamond right here and half of a diamond right here. So I'm going to go in, do half of a flux right here. I'll do a full flux right there. And then a half. I'm going to come in and do one layer. There's the second layer. Here's another, and here's another. And now I can come in and puddle into those interstices. I'm just getting right in there. And look at how pretty that looks as a continuation of that. So let's go ahead and do it on the other side here. So I'm starting from this point, coming up, and touching, coming down, touching, and then coming over and doing that nice flux right there, a little layer, a little layer, and then coming in and puddling. Isn't that so pretty? Has such a nice feel to it. So go ahead and finish up yours, and when we come back, we're going to start to work on the inside of the flight. Okay, so when I was working on this class, I actually got the idea for this class from another tile that I was working on, and I'll show that later on in our video here. But one of the things that I was thinking about was I wanted to create something that had a very spring feel to it, and I love the idea of butterflies. So as you can see, these do look like butterfly wings in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to flight here, and I'm going to go right into where this V is, and I'm going to put a little circle right in where that V is. Now once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and come down towards the bottom here, and I'm going to put a little bit of a body of the butterfly right here. So super easy, super fun. This is actually another tangulation of a friend of mine's Tangle. This is by Angie Gettles, and it's called Flutterby. And the way that she does hers is very similar, so I'm going to give a shout out to Angie there. I'm going to come into the top here, and I'm going to give my little antennae. Just like so. So let's go over to the other one and do the same thing. So I'm going to come in, put a little circle, and then I'll come down and I'll make the body of the butterfly. Super fun. And then I'm going to go ahead and give the antennae. Really fun. I'm going to come back into those, and I'm going to do some puddling. So you're going to see me just take my black pen very, very lightly here. And I'm going to do just a little bit of a half moon there. Let's go ahead and make that really big so that you can see that. See how that looks like a little half moon? And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to puddle into that half moon. Now if you have any little interstices underneath, you can always just fill that in with a little ink. So same thing over here, just coming in. And I'm sorry for the shadow. I'm going to get rid of that shadow in a second. I'm working in my little dining room area, and the sun is casting a shadow across my page. See how I have this little area in here that has a little white in it? I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in so that when I zoom out, now I have the butterflies. Okay, you go ahead and finish up yours. I'm going to finish up mine. Let's add some detail to these butterflies here. I'm going to start to work in the wings of the butterfly, and I'm going to do a really soft curve coming down from the top. And then I'm going to do a little aura of that curve. I'm going to do that same thing on the other side, just going in the opposite direction. And then I'm going to mimic that at the bottom as well. So I'm just working on these areas right in here. Oh, there's that shadow again. All right. Go ahead and do yours. I'm going to do mine, and then when we come back, I'm going to add a little bit more tangling in there. Okay, I have moved now, so no more sun shadows here. I'm going to come over to the other side here and do the same thing. So I'm just coming through and creating those nice arcs with the auras. So I'm going to come back to that first butterfly, and we're going to add a little bit of mirth, the Tangle mirth, into this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very gently now start to bring a nice division into the piece. So I'm going to come from this corner, I'm going to go up and over, out and in, and then I'll come over here and do the same thing. You can see I'm lifting up and going around. And then inside of that wing, I'm going to do a little bit of a little triangulation right at the bottom of the end of each of these little lines. And at the top of these lines right here, I'm going to have it meet. And look at that really cool detail that that puts in here. Now inside of this line right here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to add some little slatting into that area. And that just really gives it a kick. Let's go ahead and do it on the opposite side. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come from the bottom in here, and I'm going to work my way up. And then I'm going to go ahead and come down. And then I'm going to go ahead and add those little triangles. So just a little triangle. And this tangle is called Mirth. And then I'm going to go ahead and give this some slats in here. Super cool, isn't that neat? So we're going to do that in each one of our wings in here. I'm going to go ahead and do it throughout here as well. So you do yours, I'll do mine. Now there's a lot of repetition in here, but that is where all of the Zen comes in. So I really want you to just get into being very present with your line making and very present with your puddling. Just let your mind be completely immersed in what you're doing. All right, I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so look at how fun that's turning out. Really, really pretty. And this is such a lovely pattern. You could do some stationery stuff with this and really make a nice card if you wanted to for spring for somebody. It's just such an easy little pattern to do, and I'm so excited to bring it to you. We're going to do some more work on the sides in here, and you can see that I've picked back up my graphite pencil. Remember when we were talking about the string? So we're going to come back to the string here, and I'm going to come down from where the tip of the butterfly body is, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to make a little line, and then I'm going to come right in here where the midpoint is and make another little line, coming over here where the midpoint of the body is, and you can see that that gives me some really nice squares to work in. See how that worked out? I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm just going to follow where the butterfly body is, where the middle of this tangle is, coming over here, and it really divides the space quite nicely. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a really fun tangle. This is called X's and Orbs, and such a fun tangle, and it's really easy to do, and it gives quite a bang for your buck. I really like it. So I'm going to turn my piece on its side here, and I'm going to zoom in on that square, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to make an X. And then I'm going to go into the next one and do the same. Working my way down. So that when you come out, you have these really nice diamonds that it creates. Let's do the same thing on the other side. So we're just going to do our X's. Now once I have that, I'm going to start to build the tangle. Now if you want to pause me here, this is a great place to do it. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep on rolling. So I'm looking inside of this diamond right here, and all I'm going to do is create a nice arc that goes into each corner. I'm going to go down, just making sure that I'm staying on camera here. So you can see that I've created this really nice daisy chain here. I'm going to come up to this top piece and create that nice arc. Now, inside of each of these kind of funky diamonds that we have here, I'm going to put in my orbs. And you're going to notice that I'm going to let the orbs touch each of those little arcs. So our orbs will be a little bit funky as well. Some will be bigger, some will be smaller. Such a fun tangle. And then I'll come back up towards the top and I'll just do half of an orb to give it a look of continuation. Now inside of this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to puddle, and this is really for effect. If you wanted to do something else in there, you could, but I'm going to puddle. So you can see that I'm just getting in there. Remember, going light with your pen. And if you find your shoulders tensing up, see if you can soften here. Maybe a little smile creeping across your face. So you can see that I've got that one all puddled in. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these, and then I'll go over to the other side and fill in as well. So you go ahead and do yours, I'm going to do mine, and then when we come back, we're going to add one more tangle into the piece. So we're going to do another tangle here, and this tangle is called Necton. And I'm just going to flip this over. This is from Zentangle headquarters here. Necton is just a series of lines that are moving in the opposite direction of each other. So if I had a line that was moving like this, and then I had another line that was moving like this, that would be Necton. Okay, so it really has kind of a nice feel to it. What we're going to do is we're going to throw Necton into our tangle. So I'm going to come into the areas where I've got my triangles here. And what it's going to look like is I'm going to use this line as part of my Necton. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go 1 and 2. And then I'm going to shift direction. I'm going to use this line as part of my Necton, and I'm going to go 1 and 2. And it makes a really interesting kind of Art Deco look to it. So once again, coming in right here, using this line as part of it, so 1 and 2, and then shifting direction using this line as part of it, 1 and 2. Really fun. So just playing with moving back and forth. And then I'm going to flip my piece over, and there I've got my triangles once again, and I'm going to do it all over again. Same thing. And you can see that when I turn it sideways, it creates this really beautiful meta tangle going around in the background. Really super fun. So let's go ahead and do the same thing on the opposite side just to get you started here. So you can see that I've just flipped my piece on its side here. And all I'm going to do is the same exact thing. Easy peasy, easy peasy. Go ahead and finish yours up. I'm going to finish up mine, and when we come back, it's time for color. So before we get started with color, I want to ink in my borders just so that I'm all ready to go. Now the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to come right here where our butterflies are, and I'm just going to do a little line going down the side. And then I'm going to turn my piece, and you can see that I've got that separation there. I'm going to keep that separation. And then I'm going to come down the other side and do the same. So you're going to see me just get really nice and close to those antennae there. And then I'll start to work with the other pieces as well, but let's round off this edge over here. So all I'm going to do is come in, for me, working vertically is a lot easier than working horizontally, but you might be different, but this is how I tend to work. And just closing off my edges here. Same thing up here. You know, as I'm looking at this, I'm teaching this class for the Napa Public Library, and I'm looking at these and I'm thinking, these would make fabulous bookmarks, don't you think? Really, really fun. Okay, so here we are. There you have your beautiful composition. And if you see any places where you need to kind of clean up, like now I need to do a little cleanup right here, you can go ahead and do those, and then we can come back in and start to work with color. Because really, when we start to do our shading, this is really going to be so fun. Okay? All right. Alright, so we're going to start by working with our butterflies here, and I'm going to use two colors for our butterfly today. I'm going to be using the Process Red from Prisma. This is PC994, and then I also have in my hand Violet, which is PC932. Now I'm going to start with the lighter of the two colors here. This is the Process Red, and you can see that I'm pretty well sharpened up with this. Now for those of you who have never done color with me before, you have three colors in this one pencil. You have your light, you have your medium, and you have your dark. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be working with the lightest pressure on your pencil. So, you know, when you work with the lightest pressure, you're going to get the lightest color. When you put medium, you'll get more of a medium color. When you press harder, you'll get the darker color. So I'm going to start by going very, very lightly inside of the butterfly wing. And you can see that my pencil is going to be working in a really soft circular motion. I'm going to be working my way through the whole wing here. And one of the things that I like to do when I'm working with something that's repetitious like this tangle is that I'll go through and I'll do all of my lights first. So I'm just kind of working my way through each of the wings, and I'm just putting down a foundation of color. Now once I've had a chance to make my way through all of the wings in here, I'm going to go ahead and start to bring that darker purple in. So this is the violet that I have here, and I'm going to bring that violet in towards the body of the butterfly here. Working on the other side. And I would say that I'm giving this a medium pressure. Now once I've had a chance to work on the internal part, I'm going to go out to the tips of the butterfly and add a little bit of that violet to the tips. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of heavier pressure here. Really get down in there. And right over here as well. So you can see that that's really starting to develop a really nice feel just by adding that nice shading into that. Look at the difference between the two. Now I'm going to come back in with that process red. This is the first color that I worked with, and I'm going to start to blur out the edges of where the darker purple is meeting that lighter pinkish color. I'm doing little circles, and it's just a really, really light pressure. You can see that I'm going to work my way through here. And then once I've had a chance to get through all of the wings, I'm going to come back in with one of my favorite tools. I'm going to be working with the white pencil from Prisma, and I'm really going to get a nice soft blend on this piece. So I'm going to come in with that white pencil, and you're going to see me start from the lightest point and work my way down. So seeing how I'm working from the lightest point and then working my way into the darkness, into that richer color. So you can see the difference between the left side of the butterfly and the right side of the butterfly. Look at that. Can you see how this side has a little bit of a roughness to it and this side has a nice blend? So that's really a nice thing to have in your color toolbox, is that white pencil. So I'm just going through and blending in. And then I'll come in towards the center on these and just get a soft blur on that color. So that's how I'm handling the butterflies on this particular class here today. And you go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine. Remember to really just be present with what you're doing, enjoying your pencils, enjoying your paper, enjoying this time of creating, taking this nice time for yourself. Okay, I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we are going to take that very same color that we've been working with, the purple and the violet, and we're going to start to carry that color into the pieces that are out in our borders here. So I'm just going to turn this on its side here, and the reason why I like to carry color is that it gives the eye a place to land. So because we have such a busy tangle here, there's so much going on, the color is what will calm the whole piece down and give it a really nice soft feel. So I'm going to come into our X's and orbs here, and I'm just going to go into the diamond area around the orb. And so you're going to see that I'm just going to go in very, very lightly, and let's go ahead and zoom right in on this. I'm going to go very lightly into these arches around the orb. And then once I have the arches all filled in, I'm going to go into the corners here, and I'm going to start to press a little bit harder on my pencil, and you'll notice that I'm going to leave the lightness in towards the center of that arch. So I'm just coming in, giving that a little bit of a heavier pressure. And then once I have that heavier pressure in, I'm going to come in with the purple, and I'm going to start to just dust in those corners. And you can already see that leaving that central channel a little bit lighter, it's starting to give this a little bit of dimension. I'm going to grab that white pencil, make sure it's nice and clean, and I'm just going to blur out my edges here. And just watch and notice what happens when we blur out those edges. It takes something that was really hot, it had a lot of hotness in that color, a lot of vibrance, and it toned it down, and it gave it a really soft feel. Isn't that pretty? I love these colors together. I think violet and processed red are such a gorgeous combination. So I'm going to go through and do all of my diamonds just like that. You go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to start to work on some of the other tangles. So this is coming along quite nicely. I'm loving this. So what we're going to do is we're going to start to add in some more color to the piece here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to add some blues into the piece. And I'm going to start to work around the area of the butterflies. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and start to just lightly dust with two different blues. So let's talk about this here for a second. So I've got my aquamarine, which is PC 905, and then I've got my denim blue, which is PC 1101. I'm going to start to work in the area around the butterfly here and just dust in a little bit of that aquamarine blue. And you can see that I'm working on the side of the pencil and rubbing the lead of the side of the pencil into the paper. And I'm going pretty light because this color has a lot of pigmentation to it. Now once I've got that, I'll also go up top and add in some of that blue up top. Now I'll take that darker blue that I have, and I'm going to start to dust in that darker blue because it has so much pigmentation to it. I don't want to press too hard. And I'm just going to create a shadow around the wings of the butterfly. So you're going to see me turn my page just a little bit. So a nice soft shadow there. And then I'm just going to give a little bit of darkness right on the black line here. Now I'm going to come back in. Let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger for you. I'm going to come back in and I'm going to give a little bit of pressure to that pencil right along the black line of the butterfly. I'm going to go up top and give it a little bit of a shadow up top. And right over here. A little bit of pressure on that pencil. Now once I have that, I'm going to grab that white pencil again. And you're going to see me start right in the middle of where all the lightness is. And watch what happens to that blue. It starts to really pick up a nice electricity. And then I'll start to blend into the area of where that richer, darker blue is. Do the same thing over here. You can see my pencil's pretty sharp in there. Look how pretty that is. I'm going to come in over here. I'm not going to worry too much about those antennae. I can always clean up those lines later. But look at how that brings forward the butterflies. Isn't that so beautiful? So I'm going to go over and do the same thing over here. You go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to take that very same blue and we're going to start to bring it outward. So you can already see that this is really coming to life here. So I'm going to turn my piece on its side, and I'm going to start to bring some color into our X's and orbs. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in right here, and I'm just going to very gently start to dust in with that lightest blue first. And you'll notice that I'm leaving a light source right here in the upper left-hand corner. Now once I have that, I'm going to press a little bit harder on that pencil to create a nice ombre. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab that darker blue and just give it a light dusting right along the edge of the piece here. And then I'll press a little bit harder, just right in here. I'm going to pick up that white and I'm going to very, very gently start to blur out the edges between the light blue and the darker blue. And I'm going to slightly pull that darker blue forward a little bit. Look at how pretty that is. Isn't that gorgeous? Just got so luminous. Just love that. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and when we come back, we're going to start to add in a new color. So I am going to add a new color into the piece here. We're going to add some yellow and orange into the piece. And I have the Spanish orange in my hand. This is PC 1003. And then I also have in my hand the cadmium orange, which is PC 118. Now I'm going to take this color and I'm going to start to bring it into the flower that's in the center of our piece here. I'm going to start with that lighter color first. So this is the Spanish orange, and I'm just going to start to dust in the edges here. So I'm dusting it in. And then once I have that, I'm going to start to shade the perimeter of the flower with a little bit darker color. So this is the cadmium orange, and I'm just going to go around the outside edge of the flower here. And I'm going fairly lightly with this. And then once I have that, I'm going to go right into the center and just add a little bit into the center. And you'll notice that that gives a little bit of a halo effect going around. Now I'm going to go back around the edges and I'm going to give it a little push right on the tips of the flower. And then a little bit in towards the center. And you'll see that I'm kind of looking at it and cleaning it up a little bit. Now I'm going to take that lighter yellow and I'm going to start to blur out my edges. I'm using a light pressure. And you can see that it's dragging down some of that orange and really getting a nice rich yellow color. It's a nice warm yellow. And then coming in around the center. And I just love that it brings so much energy into the center of that piece. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shade in the side pieces the same way that I just did that. So you go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine. And when we come back, we're going to work on our border. Isn't that so pretty? It brings such a nice electricity into the piece, don't you think? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start to work in our border here. But just to reiterate the idea, look at how beautiful that would be as a bookmark, don't you think? I think that'd be so fun. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn my piece here and I'm going to pick up that lighter orange again, that lighter yellowy orange, and I'm going to start to dust through the piece. And you can see that I'm just really giving this a light mist of color here. Now, once I have that done, I'm going to go through all of these and do the same, but I just want to give you the demo for how I'm going to shade that particular tangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with that darker orange and I'm going to dust right at the top of the triangle just a little bit, right at the bottom area of this triangle. So you'll notice that I'm just staying in this little area right in here. And then see how I have this line right here? I want to give a shadow. So I'm going to give a shadow to make it look like that one piece is on top of the other. Then I'll come in with a little bit of that lighter yellow again, and I'll blur out my edges. And then I'm going to go ahead and blur that out as well. And look at how pretty that is. Isn't that lovely? So I'm going to go all the way around and do mine. You do yours. And when we come back, we're going to work just a little bit more on some refining of our lines. All right, so let's go ahead and start to add some highlights into the piece here. You can see that I've picked up my Mizu Love pen. This is a white gel pen. You can use this pen or the Sakura white Jelly Roll or the Uniball Angelic is all great. Those are all wonderful pens. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and start to turn my piece vertically once again and start to focus in on the orbs that we have here. So let's go ahead and zoom in on this orb right down in here. And you're going to see me just get my pen started on my finger. I find that these pens just get started on skin a lot easier. So I'm going to come in and start to add a little bit of white and just bring it down and create this kind of sheen inside of the orb. And that's just going to give this a little bit of interest. And you can see that I'm just kind of thickening it up a little bit as I go. And you can see that I started in over here a little bit, and I have one started up in here. Sometimes I get a little carried away before I start recording. And then I'll come up in here as well. And then I'll go to the other side and do the same thing. And I'm not going to flip the piece, I'm just going to keep it so that the light source is coming from the same direction on all sides. So you can see that I'm just working in and getting those nice sheens into the orb. So that when I zoom out, you can see that that really brings a really nice feeling of shimmer into the piece. So go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to add just a little bit more. So I'm going to come in towards the center of the piece now, and you can see that I had started to add a little bit of white into the areas where we have these little diamond shapes around Showgirl. And I'm just going to really clean those up and give them a little pop. And if you want to do the same on those side pieces over here and over here, that's going to give that a little bit of interest in towards the center. If you want to give your butterfly body a little bit of sheen, you can come down the side and just add a couple of dots. That's just going to give that a little bit of pop as well. If you want to play inside of the orbs or right in around where the orb is, you can always go through the center here where we have a little bit of lightness and just add a little bit of a light line with a dot in it. And you can see that that gives kind of a shimmer or a juicy quality to the piece just by playing with that a little bit. I always like to add a little bit of that in towards the center. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine. And then when we come back, what we're going to look for is any black lines that have gotten lost inside of the piece, anything that you feel needs to be refined. So when I'm looking at my piece, I'm looking for anything that I feel like where the black has gotten lost underneath some kind of color pencil. And I'm just really looking to see if there are any lines that didn't connect or pieces that I just want to play with. Like you can see there's a little bit of whiteness right in here, right between my line and the outside edge, and so I can go in and I can clean that and just kind of look for little pieces that I feel are necessary to clean up. So as I'm going through, I'm also appreciating the process that we've gone through here to create this really fun piece. When we started in the beginning, we just had 3 columns, and now here we are with this beautiful butterfly piece that is so fun and has so much whimsy to it. So I'm going to go in towards the center as well. I'm going to pick back up my white pen and just give that a little pop of white right in the center just to get it to jump, and that really does get it to jump. I'm going to go ahead and put my chop into the piece, and I love to hide my chop, as you know, and so I'm just going to come down into the corner here, and right here I'm going to just bring in my chop. And your chop is just your initial, and it's your way of saying that you've completed the piece and that you feel like you're ready to let it go. So I'm just going to bring in another one that I did as I was playing with the video and just wanted to see what it would look like if I left one of the wings open instead of adding a little bit of that slatting into the piece. So, it's always fun to play and try different things. So that's it for me. I'm Rami Marks, your Tangled Yogi. Thank you so much for joining us today for this class. If you enjoyed the class, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, or even better, go ahead and hit the subscribe button in that upper right hand corner, and you'll be notified every time I add a new class into my repertoire here on my channel. And if you'd like to join us on our Tangled Yogi Art Community page, that's on Facebook, we'd love to see your work and see what you're creating. We have some really great students and teachers that share their work there, and it's just a great way for us to all learn from each other because everybody does the class differently, so it's always fun to see what everybody creates. Well, thank you for joining us, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.